and welcome to A Cat in the Garden. And today I want to take you back in time a little bit. Probably around this time last year, the plant that was all the rage was the Florida Ghost. And then suddenly, the Florida Ghost mint. And I don't know if you remember, I wish I could show you guys this plant, but I honestly don't like it at all, so I don't own it. But it turned out that the Florida Ghost mint wasn't a thing. It wasn't a unique plant. It didn't exist. Essentially, it was just a Florida Ghost. And the reason why it looked minty depended on your light situation in your space that you were growing in. So it kind of got exposed in a way. Some people still think that it's a thing, but I think the general public in the plant community doesn't recognize Florida Ghost mint as a plant anymore. It's just a Florida Ghost. But as prices of plants have been going down, as these plants have gone through TC and they've become more accessible to us as plant parents, this sort of thing that happened with the Florida Ghost has continued to happen. The first thing I saw was the Black Cherry Pink Princess. Now it is the Marble King Pink Princess, and it has gone beyond Pink Princesses to the Monstera Thai constellation. There is one that is being called a Creme Brulee, and there's a few others. There's a Philodendron White Knight that is being called a Philodendron Royal Queen. The commonality between all of these things is that they're not things. They are just new names for plants that already exist, and they don't really have any unique characteristics that would render giving them a new name and making them a new cultivar, meaning they are a unique plant that is noticeably different from the original plant. Now first, I'm going to give you an example of a plant that is unique and is a different plant and deserves to have a different name. That, of course, is my favorite plant of all time, the Philodendron Micans Velvet Halo. Look at that leaf, y'all! Oh my god, you see that? Do you see how cute that is? Okay, so this is a Philodendron Micans, and there are a couple of different Philodendron Micans out there. So there's the regular one that's not variegated, there's the Aurea one, there is the chemically induced pink one, which is a whole other issue in itself, and then there's the Velvet Halo. And the reason why this is a unique plant is because it is showing unique characteristics different to the other variegated Philodendron Micans. The person who found this grew their original plant out for a while, found it to be stable, and now it is recognized as a different plant. It's still Micans, but it has stable variegation that makes it different from the Aurea variegation. So that's that. Not knocking this plant. I will never knock her. She's literally perfect. But the case is not the same with some of these other plants. And I don't really have what they're calling these plants to show you, except for one. So you'll just kind of have to bear with me, but I'm hoping I can explain it in a way that will make sense. You will probably have seen these plants on the internet. You will have seen plant influencers saying, oh my gosh, I just got this creme brulee. But trust me, it's not a thing. So the first one I'm gonna show you or talk about is the Thai constellation. Thai constellations do not occur naturally in the wild. It is a result of a genetic mutation, and obviously they're in TC now. I'm pretty sure this was a TC baby. Totally fine, by the way. They are known to have a very stable variegation. They don't really revert ever, and they are all large form Monsteras. And a lot of them end up looking like this, you know, decent variegation. You know, you got some splotches here, but they all have this little speckled look on the leaves. Fine. Then, as they're in TC more and more, some really beautiful, highly variegated Thai constellations came out onto the market, and they are gorgeous. Do not get me wrong, I actually prefer them to this because I prefer the sectoral variegation to the more bird poopy look. But people started marketing them as Monstera Creme Brulee. Some people were saying that the creme brulee had more of a yellow variegation versus the cream that we all know on ties. It's not a thing. I've seen people posting them. It's just a highly variegated tie constellation. Now the same thing happened with the Pink Princess. They are also heavily in TC, and the variegation has varied quite a lot. And because they're heavily in TC, the price of this specifically has gone down so much that I found them in my local HEB, which is our grocery store, for $12. I paid $200 for mine back in 2021. So that's crazy. Granted, the one I bought was bigger, but still. Insane how in 2 years a plant can go down that much. Well, sellers don't really love that because then you're making less money. So they've decided that, oh, maybe you don't like TC, or oh, maybe you don't like that this plant isn't rare anymore. Well, here's this black cherry Pink Princess, which is supposed to have darker stems than a regular Pink Princess. Or here's this Marble King that shows marbly variegation. They're all from TC probably, and they're a Pink Princess. There's not really much that's different. Some Pink Princesses will show consistent variegation. In my experience, having owned about like 5 of them now throughout the years, they have all varied for me. Sometimes they'll show a few leaves with like a consistent pattern of variegation. I do get half moons pretty often, but it's just a Pink Princess. And unfortunately, the marketing ploy with this gets you to buy multiples of the same plant. I literally see people on my Instagram feed who say, I have a Pink Princess, I have a Marble King Pink Princess, I have a Black Cherry Pink Princess, and they're convinced that they have different plants when they don't. What I have noticed in terms of the colors of the stems is that the more mature Pink Princesses tend to have darker stems. That's just something I've observed. I don't know how true that is of a thing because all of the ones I personally have are small. I've just seen bigger ones in nurseries and garden centers and whatnot. But that's sort of my opinion on that. But they're just a Pink Princess, guys. They're cute. They're great. I love them. We all love them. Except for when their leaves get stuck when they're trying to unfurl. But they're just a Pink Princess. One that I saw also specifically to a garden center in the DC metro area that I've been to before back when I lived in Maryland is they were selling what they called a Philodendron Royal Queen. And I looked into it because I was like, this plant looks awfully familiar. And it turned out that it looked like a white knight, but it had some burgundy color on the leaves. Let me see if I have, oh, this one looks better. You see the burgundy and the green? Sometimes it'll show up on the top of the leaf. There's like a little bit here, but it's kind of hard to see. And I was like, well, that's a tricolor white knight. And at first people were selling tricolor white knights when they sort of discovered that white knights can sometimes do that. They were selling them for a pretty penny. But then it turned out that almost all white knights do that, especially after they went into TC. So again, another marketing ploy. It's a white knight, people. And the one I saw most recently, which really inspired me to make this video, was somebody, a plant influencer, had a plant that they called a Raspberry Variegata Maranta. And this was a beautiful plant. It was very high variegation. The leaves were all lily white, and the little spots that you see on a Maranta leaf, they were all pink. Well, I decided to look at mine because I have a little baby one. And if you can see here, the spots are turning pink. And here it all turns white, so the pink just shows up where the spots are, and if it's variegated over the spot. I looked at the person's page because their reel about it went viral, of course, and they had a link to the shop where they got it, and I'm presuming it's a sponsored thing. It's just a variegated Maranta, and you can find ones in 4-inch pots bigger than this guy at least in the Austin area, for like $15. I don't even want to know how much they're charging for this plant right now, but raspberry variegata is not a thing. Stop trying to make it a thing, Gretchen, because it's not a thing. It'll never be a thing. You have a variegated maranta. You have a very beautiful variegated maranta. But I don't understand why we can't be honest about it. It's okay to sell a plant and say, I'm selling this as a high variegation variegated maranta. That's totally fine. I personally am willing to pay more for something that has higher variegation and is stable. Or with my Hoyas, I'm willing to pay more money for a splashy Hoya that has more consistent splash and higher splash. I'm trying to think of them. I'm currently in the market for a Carnosa freckle splash, and I had an opportunity to buy one, but it was very low splash, and I said, no thanks, I'm gonna pass on that. I'll wait. It's okay to charge more for things like that if you're honest about it. But what's happening right now is that a lot of people in the plant community are being scammed because they don't know better. They don't know that they're buying 1, 2, 3 of the same exact plant. And I saw somebody making the argument that if you're just trying to do it for clout and you're trying to do it for clicks, that it's not that big of a deal. But I think when you do it for clout and you get people excited about it, then sellers are gonna say, oh, everybody wants this plant because of all the clout around this plant, and they're gonna start selling the new version of that plant. So I think that's equally as dangerous because you're still creating this whole market around it. And it's just a money grab. It's a marketing ploy, and it's really hurting people that don't know any better, that maybe are saving up money to buy this really nice expensive plant so that they feel really cool. It's a wish list plant. They've waited a long time for a nice plant like that. And it turns out that they just now have 2 pink princesses. So where do we go from here? I think for starters, we stop giving weird names to plants. We just call them what they are, unless we're actively doing it as a joke or for some other satirical reason. I think because we can't really trust sellers all the time, to be honest, unfortunately, we kind of have to take it upon ourselves to say, no, this isn't really a thing, and to call these things out when they happen. It's really frustrating because I know that there are people that are getting scammed in this. Are you seeing this a lot on your social media feeds or on plant YouTube? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think that these are actually different plants and I'm just being crazy? Let me know too. I definitely want to hear your opinion because I personally have been seeing it a lot more, and I just want to know kind of how everyone else is feeling because I don't really see a lot of people talking about this. But thank you so much for listening to me today and for hanging out with me and Nutmeg, who is watching a bird outside of our window. That's okay, bud. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give us a thumbs up down below and subscribe so you don't miss anything else from us. Thank you so much again for watching, and we will catch you in the next one.